the $100 trillion lie crushing Europe. Welfare's true cost. If you're ready to uncover the hidden chains dragging our future into the abyss, hit that like, smash the share, and lock in your subscribe or follow. Because truth like this demands an army of awakened minds. We're diving into something that's quietly undermining the foundations of Europe, the massive, hidden burden of unfunded liabilities tied to all sorts of social systems, especially those enforced welfare programs that promise everything but deliver chains for the future. Imagine a continent that's built its reputation on generous safety nets. But those nets are woven from debt that's not even on the books. We're talking about promises to pay for pensions, healthcare, unemployment aid, migrant support, and a whole web of entitlements that aren't funded today, meaning they'll either crush future taxpayers or get wiped out through inflation that steals value from everyone's pockets. This isn't just an accounting trick. It's a ticking bomb that's already starting to erode societies, breeding dependency and decay. By the end, you'll see why these systems represent a core evil, dragging down current lives and dooming the next generations to decline and degeneracy. Let's start by painting a picture without getting into the gritty details just yet. Picture Europe as this grand old ship, sailing smoothly on the surface with flags of equality and security flying high. But below deck, there's an iceberg of obligations, trillions upon trillions in promises for retirement payouts, medical care, housing subsidies, and endless aid programs that aren't backed by real money. Governments use cash accounting, only recording expenses when the bills come due, so the true scale stays hidden. It's like a family maxing out credit cards for lavish vacations, pretending the debt doesn't exist until the collectors show up. These unfunded liabilities are essentially debt in disguise, and they'll demand payment through sky-high taxes on your kids or grandkids, or worse, by printing money that turns savings into worthless paper. The highest estimates put this across Europe's biggest economies at over $100 trillion, dwarfing their combined GDPs and setting the stage for economic stagnation, cultural rot, and a loss of freedom that echoes the worst of Bolshevism's control. Now, let's pull back the curtain on the numbers and the specifics. Across Europe's largest countries, Germany, France, the UK, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and Poland, the total unfunded liabilities for pensions, healthcare, and broader welfare systems clock in at a staggering $90 to $110 trillion, based on the highest projections that factor in accrued entitlements and future demographic pressures. That's roughly 520% to 630% of their combined $17.4 trillion GDPs in 2025 estimates. These aren't wild guesses. They're drawn from analyses like those from fiscal imbalance models and aging reports that calculate the present value of obligations minus expected revenues. For pensions alone, we're looking at $57 to $59 trillion unfunded, or about 330% to 340% of GDP. But when you layer in healthcare and other welfare, things like unemployment benefits, family allowances, housing aid, and migrant integration costs, the additional unfunded hit swells to 34 to 51 trillion, pushing totals into that nightmare range. Take Germany as a prime example. Their system is a behemoth of enforced welfare, with programs like Bürgergeld, which provides basic income security for the unemployed and low earners, covering not just cash but housing, heating, and even furniture allowances. Then there's Grundrente, a pension top-up for long-time low-wage workers, promising extra retirement support without pre-funding. Add in massive funding for migrants, housing, language courses, job training, and integration aid that runs into billions annually, all unfunded in the long term. The highest estimates peg Germany's total unfunded liabilities at $24 to $29 trillion, or 520% to 620% of their $4.7 trillion GDP. These aren't optional. They're enforced by law, pulling from future taxes or inflating away value, leaving younger Germans to foot the bill for today's generosity. France takes it even further with its expansive network. Their unemployment benefits are among the most generous, offering up to 2 years of payouts at 57% of previous salary, plus family benefits like allocations familiales for child support, and extensive migrant aid including healthcare and housing subsidies. Healthcare itself is largely state-run, with promises of universal coverage that's unfunded beyond current revenues. The top estimates here reach $19 to $22 trillion unfunded, equating to 600% to 700% of their $3.2 trillion GDP. It's a system rooted in communist ideals of redistribution, but it creates a hidden debt that will either tax the working class into poverty or devalue the euro through inflation, eroding savings and incentivizing idleness. Over in the UK, things look a bit different but no less burdensome. Universal credit combines multiple benefits into one payment for low-income households, covering job seekers' allowance, housing benefits, and child tax credits. The National Health Service provides free at point-of-use care, but its long-term promises for elderly treatment and chronic conditions are massively unfunded. Estimates put the UK's total at $10.5 to $15.75 trillion, or 300% to 450% of $3.5 trillion GDP. Welfare for migrants, including asylum seeker support, adds layers of unfunded commitments that future generations will pay for, either directly or through diluted currency. Italy's setup includes reddito di cittadinanza, a citizen's income for the poor and unemployed, alongside generous pensions and social housing programs. Healthcare is universal and state-funded, with additional aid for families and migrants straining the books. Highest figures: 15 to 17 trillion unfunded, 650% to 750% of 2.3 trillion GDP. Spain mirrors this with high unemployment benefits, up to 70% of salary for the first 6 months, plus family allowances and extensive migrant support post-crisis. Their totals hit 11 to 13 trillion, 700% to 800% of 1.6 trillion GDP. The Netherlands has Bijstand, a social assistance program for basic needs, including housing and health supplements, while Poland's 500+ program gives monthly child benefits, expanded to cover Ukraine refugees with housing and integration aid. Netherlands, 7 to 8 trillion unfunded, 570% to 670% of 1.2 trillion GDP. Poland, 3.6 to 4.5 trillion, 400% to 500% of 0.9 trillion GDP. All these are pay-as-you-go, meaning no real savings, just IOUs on future productivity. These systems aren't just financial black holes. They embody a deeper evil. Enforced welfare, with its Marxist roots in forced redistribution, saps individual initiative and fosters dependency. When governments mandate contributions and payouts, it creates a cycle where people rely on the state instead of themselves, leading to lower work ethic, family breakdown, and cultural degeneracy. Future generations inherit not just the debt but a society where hard work is punished by taxes to fund the idle, breeding resentment and decline. The analogy holds firm. These unfunded promises are debt, plain and simple. They'll be paid by hiking taxes on tomorrow's workers, stifling growth and innovation, or by inflating the currency, which destroys the value of savings and wages. Inflation acts like a stealth tax, hitting the poor hardest and rewarding debtors like governments while punishing savers. In Europe's aging populations, with fewer workers per retiree dropping to 2:1 by 2050, this means economic stagnation, higher poverty, and social unrest. Bolshevism's legacy lives on in these programs, promising utopia but delivering control and decay, where personal freedom erodes under the weight of collective obligations. Think about the broader themes here. Demographic shifts amplify the danger. Europe's low birth rates and aging mean more claimants, fewer contributors. Enforced welfare accelerates this by disincentivizing families. Why have kids when the state promises to care for you in old age? It leads to degeneracy, where traditional values of self-reliance and community give way to entitlement and moral laxity. Communism's enforced equality ignores human nature, creating systems that collapse under their own weight, as seen historically in the Soviet era where innovation died and society stagnated. In modern Europe, this manifests as rising debt spirals, where interest on official debt already eats budgets, forcing more borrowing or printing. The result? A middle class squeezed, youth emigrating for better opportunities, and cultures losing vitality. It's a path to decline, where enforced welfare isn't compassion. It's a trap that binds generations in chains of obligation, fostering laziness, division, and ultimate societal rot. Let me share a few poignant lines that capture this essence. In the early 20th century, amid rising communist influences, one observer noted, "The problem with Bolshevism is that it robs Peter to pay Paul, but eventually Peter runs out of money and Paul starves." Fast forward, and economic analyses echo. Unfunded liabilities are the silent thief, stealing from the unborn to indulge the present. Or this, welfare states built on debt are pyramids of promises, destined to crumble on the backs of the young. These highlight the intergenerational injustice. Current voters enjoy benefits, but the bill lands on those without a voice yet. So what can be done? It's time to wake up and act. Push for true accounting that books these liabilities as debt today, forcing reforms like raising retirement ages, privatizing where possible, and cutting enforced programs that breed dependency. Diversify your own security, hold assets like gold or digital currencies outside the system, build skills that can't be taxed away, and advocate for policies that reward work over handouts. Europe's future doesn't have to be one of decline. By rejecting this core evil of enforced welfare, we can reclaim freedom and prosperity for all generations. Stay vigilant, stay free,